Okay, it is 6:30. Going to call to order the November 26th, 2024 meeting of the Town of Rutland Planning Board. First agenda item is meeting minutes from November 12th.
Make a motion to accept the minutes
Second.
with corrections. And the corrections, like I have said, others, just add public, before sewer, public sewer. Or just the private road be turned into public.
Is there any discussion? And hearing none, all in favor?
All right.
Okay, next order is, we have a public hearing and we have some
Yes,
new advice from
From
town council.
yes, so in talking to town council before town meeting, and this is certainly something I've seen done with other planning boards, is even though it's not legally required, it is a good practice for the board to acknowledge the public hearing notice, and if the board does not want the chair to read or someone to read the entire public hearing notice, then at least make a motion to waive the reading of the public hearing notice. So that's a way of the board acknowledging that a public hearing notice wasn't properly posted. So that was town council's advice. So Norm and I agreed that that's probably a good practice to do, is just acknowledge the public hearing notice, and you can always waive the reading of the public hearing notice.
It's on file somewhere.
Yes, it is.
So, we have a public hearing, on behalf of the property owner for a sign in the non-residential area. Do I have a motion to waive the reading of the public hearing notice?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
By the way, I don't mind reading them if you don't want to go through that process. Remember, Dick, I used to, read them, it's not a big deal.
Yep.
I don't know which is simpler.
It depends on the public hearing notice, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
or to just go through and quickly read it.
That's up to you guys.
Anyway, so, assuming we have the applicant here,
You do.
we have some information regarding the sign, site plan, its location, the application, and assuming computer-generated picture.
Could you see that for a second? Please introduce yourself before you speak.
My name is Mike Wood with Signorama Worcester. We were hired by Man's RV to replace the sign that was knocked down with a light box that has a digital display below it and a new pole.
Also, any questions, comments from the board?
Love it, thank you. I'm glad it still says man on it. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
No, you can go ahead.
I'm kind of assuming that the dark screen below the man's RV will be a variable message.
This is a 3-color message board, meaning a variation of 3 colors, orange, red, and yellow. And this is not going to display actual pictures, just messages.
Okay, and I don't know, I think we went through this with the storage facility up on East County Road.
Yep.
That,
It wouldn't shine or reflect.
well, that we didn't want flashing messages, scrolling messages, that kind of thing. That would be distracting.
Yeah, you don't want people to try to read and not see the trailer truck coming after them.
Okay.
Some sort of static message, which is.
No scrolling or flashing.
Yeah.
All right. A good example of this screen is Olden Hills Country Club, if you're familiar with that.
Yep.
And they can really get, they really get creative with the flash and things like that, so I'll ask that Mance tone that down.
Which Having gone by the storage place, I've noticed that their messages are pretty static on that board.
Yes.
Looks a whole lot better to me. I don't think we need the flashing neon lights, that sort of thing.
No, there's enough flashing lights just beyond it. Which way you're coming, if you're heading towards Holden, it's just beyond it.
Yeah, well, yeah.
School buses.
I assume it's just for sales on the property, that's the idea for maybe
Specials,
pricing and stuff like that.
seasonal promotions. They had a static track board in place before, but it's just difficult to get up that high and change those letters. So same concept, just more easily programmable.
You don't really have any residential in that area, so I don't think you're gonna get too many brightness complaints or anything like that.
What, 15 feet tall?
15 is the very high, the top of the man's box. The bottom of the digital display is, it's gonna be about just over 8 feet.
Just above the snowbank.
A little bit.
So the LED would be visible coming from Paxton?
Both sides. Oh, I'm sorry. It is single-sided, but it's one display on each side, so it faces each direction.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Oh,
I apologize for the confusion on that.
okay, sorry, yeah, so
You have a quantity of 2, so they're
It's
back
2.
to back.
Okay. So if they don't get the message the first time through, they can look at me really. Try to read it backwards.
Get them coming and going.
I don't know, it appears to me that it pretty much meets the sign requirements.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it.
So, any comments from the public? Names up there, but no sound.
Right here.
Yes,
I just happened to see the public notice, I just wanted to come and speak in favor of approval of this sign. I think Mans has been
Excuse me, could you introduce yourself quickly for the
Tom
record?
Rochelle, 25 Maple Ave, Rutland.
Expired chief.
Hi.
They've been a long-standing and upstanding business in town, almost as long as I've been around here.
Yes.
Maybe, well, not quite. I don't wanna say how long that's been, because you're really my age. But anyways, they're very supportive of the nonprofit groups in Rutland. Always helping out in town, doing things for what's gonna benefit the townspeople, so. I'm sure there's no problems with the sign, but I just wanted to speak in favor of it.
Thank you.
so, so I guess I'll ask for a motion.
To close the public hearing, so moved.
Second.
Second, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Mr. Chair, I do have a draft decision in case the board were ready to close the public hearing tonight, so I just figured, it's a very simple decision if the board would wanna go through it, that, because I know we don't have a second meeting in December, our next meeting in 10, so I figured not to hold them up. So this is a very simple, I apologize, there is a paragraph on the first page under application materials I have to update. I have to update that with the correct information, cause I used another application as a template. So I do have to update that information, but it's just the project summary, procedural history, application materials, standard things, very standard findings, not as complex as special permit findings, obviously. And then the conditions, I did have 2 standard conditions, but I can add a third one, after the discussion tonight. For no scrolling messages, static messages only. But the other 2, I'm sorry. The approved sign shall be constructed in substantial conformance on the plot plan. The applicant shall obtain all required local permits required for the construction of the approved sign. So like I said, there's a couple areas I have to update to put the correct information in and add that third condition. But other than that, if the board is satisfied with this and the decision, I could have you guys sign the signature page, make the updates tomorrow morning and get this filed with the town clerk to get them going.
Can I make a comment about the static?
Sure.
Obviously, you gotta take a message away and bring a new message up. When they say static, and we've said static, somehow they do a page scroll or they do any type of graphic. They just saying like a flip of a switch, it'll go to a next message. Obviously, scrolling can be like, a 20 word sentence that takes forever to read, or there's just like a wipe away, new message in under a second type thing is.
The new message would be more of the refresh rate, they call it.
Yeah.
How often can that sign refresh to the next message?
Yeah,
It's different per town, and so if you want to decide, how many messages can be displayed a day,
no, not like that, but yeah.
so.
I don't think we have, first of all, the public hearing is closed.
Yeah,
But second of all, we don't have enough information to be able to determine message rate and things like that.
yeah.
I guess what I would just to kind of add to that, we could state, avoid animation of the message, so that it's just a solid message on the screen.
Okay,
Okay, I can add that.
just not to lock you into something that's.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Anything further? I have a motion then to, approve the site plan request.
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Am I excused or?
Yes, so I will file this with the town clerk in the morning, and that'll initiate your 20-day appeal period, which will start the following day, which will be Thanksgiving. Then count 20 days from that, and then the day after that, you can get the decision and you can go for your permits with the building department. Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. It's today the 26th.
Wow. Yeah, we'll just do norms.
Oh, okay.
You only need one, right?
Yep.
Awesome, thank you.
What's your name?
Oh,
Take
come
care.
on, come on.
See ya.
Hi, Tommy.
We'll see you soon. It's on this morning, down on 122.
Okay. Next item, endorsement of the Tri-Partite Agreement for Brintnal Estates, Phase 2. Which has been, I guess, revised
By town council.
by town council, all of those.
Obviously, there's gonna be some information that the applicant needs to fill in terms of dollar amounts and lot numbers. But basically, it's been reviewed by town council and all the edits that they've requested have been implemented.
I know a couple weeks ago, we were looking at a surety bond. This isn't the same
This
project.
is the same thing.
Okay, it is.
Yeah, this is the Tri-Partite.
Okay.
This is one of the forms that the board accepts, so I have the 2 pages at the end, and Tamika, you have your notary information? Cool. So if the board signs it tonight, then Tamika can notarize it and I can get this to Clee and he can fill in the rest of the information and have it executed and signed from his side of things.
All right, turn to page 2. C, I underlined all conditions. May I have a copy, please, of the conditions? So I wanna make sure that all the conditions, when I go over there to take a look once in a while,
Okay.
that they're fulfilled. Because I had asked Clee about opening it up to the rail trail, and he said he would. And I wanna just make sure that that's,
Which all of those conditions do not really have to be met until he is applying for the town to take it.
that is correct.
Take the road.
But that's why I when I saw that, and I says, well,
But it's good to stay on top of that.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it mentions, the blacktop finish application. Is that just the release of the money for just that, or this is?
This is he wants some lots released and
Yeah.
what you see for the surety is the amount remaining that it would cost to finish the roadway.
Okay.
Remember, we got that from Quinn Engineering.
Yes, yeah.
The bond estimate. That's the amount that's listed here. So, okay, this is not a public hearing, it's just a current.
That's right.
And anyway, I'll accept a motion to, endorse the partial release of covenant.
and I'll second that.
Second.
Any discussion?
No. Oh, excuse me, I'll make the recommendation,
Motion.
motion. All right, time to call it quits.
Yeah,
So there are two
me
forms,
too.
there are two forms that need to be signed, Norm. This is for the Tri-Partite agreement
Okay.
and both need to be notarized by Tamika and can fill in the date and the relevant information. That's the partial release of covenant for the lots.
Long day. I don't know if I recently see either of the Brintnal estates or Rutland. I don't know if they finished the paving. Last time I was there, like a week and a half ago, they had not finished the paving on Bryce Lemon.
Yeah, no, they hadn't.
Which is kind of interesting.
I mean, if we don't get snow, I guess you can pay it all the way up to.
I don't know how that's working these days.
One can only hope that all the trap rock is still open and producing
Yeah.
blacktop.
See, do we have the other document? Oh.
Yep.
sorry.
Yep, no, you're all right.
Okay, there you go.
Just wait for those to be done.
We can do that now.
You're gonna charge them for this?
$1,000 each.
Nice.
I've been wondering about that, our account and what's been happening.
There goes the stipends.
Yeah, right,
Yeah, but somebody's going on a long vacation.
yeah. Oh,
I was just telling Keith before the meeting, I've never seen a community where it's not foggy at the beginning of the day, and they actually get fog in the middle of the day.
Yeah. And it was up until about an hour and a half ago.
Yeah.
And then it just disappeared.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Thank you. That's that one. Awesome, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent, so I will let Clea know tomorrow if these are ready for him.
Okay. Let's see. Next item, discussion, master plan implementation,
Yes.
table amendments.
So, I've been in Rutland about 13 months, and this was one of the first things that came across my desk. It's taken a long time to get here. I've had 3 meetings with Tim and Dick going through this table. On the one hand, being respectful to the fact that this went through a public process previously, but at the same time, trying to make sure that, things aren't in here that aren't applicable to Rutland, or, or to update language a little bit. So I put numbers on the pages just for easy reference, so if you have questions, you can refer to a page and number. So on the first page, there are just a couple changes. Proactively seek state aid and federal funding. Made that medium importance because that is really an ongoing thing. We're always seeking different types of grant funding of all the departments in the town in general. And just some language updates. Action item down below, evaluate the need to conduct a sidewalk crosswalk signal survey program. Dick and Tim wanted to including Mass DOT roads, not just town roads, but obviously Mass DOT roads as well. And they consider that a high priority over 5 years. A year is a little bit, that's something that's not gonna be done in a year, obviously. And move up that from very low to medium. And add Mass DOT as one of the responsible entities. And that's another thing we did was, there was a few spots where we felt another department, it was appropriate to add them as one of the parties, like down below. Fix poor ramps at Maple Avenue and Highland Park Road. The building department should be part of that because of the ADA requirements and things like that, since they're the enforcement office for that. On the second page, you'll see some areas where the police department was added in and the select board was added in as entities that would be involved in some of these things, such as increased number and prominence of speed limit signs in appropriate areas. Obviously, the police department should be involved in that, and the select board should be involved when that happens. Improve public awareness of the rules of the road and all transportation modes through public education efforts and improve signage. Again, police department and select board should be involved in those things. CMRPC was added in a couple of these. And you can see going throughout, police department was added in, select board was added in a few places, in Mass DOT. The one item that was suggested for removal is the action item regarding utilized traffic calming measures, narrowing travel lanes, increase sidewalk widths, adding on street parking, adding landscaping, speed humps, things like that. So, we felt that traffic calming measures, although in selective areas, may be effective for the most part in a town like Rutland. Traffic calming measures are difficult because it's rural here. Traffic calming measures are really more effective in more urbanized areas, such as dense residential neighborhoods where they'll sometimes do bump outs. But they did that when I was in Wareham, they did that along Main Street. In Wareham, they did a couple bump outs to slow traffic down. But even that turned out to be controversial because it took away from where buses can stop along the main street, and it took away parking spaces from downtown businesses. So, and the other thing that you have to be careful with traffic calming measures like that is who's going to maintain them? Who's gonna maintain landscape bump outs, things like that? And even when it comes to speed humps, you have to make sure the pavement markings are there, they're signed properly, or else they can actually end up being a liability for a community. So we felt that something like that is in Rutland, maybe something that is not gonna be needed in a lot of areas. I know they're gonna be looking at the possibility of roundabouts out near the Dunkin' Donuts here, and certainly that would help calm traffic down, and so that's something that definitely could be explored. But as far as widespread traffic calming, I think, I don't know if, we weren't sure it was appropriate for Rutland.
Especially when it snows and you put a plow out there, he doesn't know there's a bump out, and there goes the plow.
The town of Holliston did that. Several years ago, they put these speed tables with crosswalks on top of them throughout their downtown on Route 126. That lasted about 4 years, and they took them out because of the plows. So you have to be careful. And speed tables are basically large speed humps where you can a car can sit on top of them because they're that wide.
Yeah.
So they did that in their downtown, and like I said, it lasted about 4 years, and then they took them out because they were just too hazardous. So you have to be very careful with those things.
Just when I was reading through this thing in the police department, I hope that when they're talking about situations, they get the EMTs involved also, because I think they're very crucial in how the road is or anything else, because when they're trying to get downtown Worcester fast or wherever they gotta go, I just wanna make sure that they listen to them.
Yep. So page 3, this is where we start getting into some things that were approved. The first action item at the top. Installing no idling signs in areas where vehicles frequently idle, such as schools, convenience stations, and municipal facilities. Almost impossible to enforce. Who's gonna be there watching a car idling and saying, oh, you have to turn your engine off? So that was the feeling about that is, I've seen them, Blackstone, Massachusetts has one outside of their town hall. Is it ever enforced? I don't know. I just felt like that was something that was not practical. The second action item, an addition, was instead of saying install electric vehicle charging stations, the language was changed to consider the installation of electric vehicle charging stations at public buildings if there's demand for them. And that's the big thing with EV charging stations is, it's kind of like the chicken and the egg. It's like people say, well, where's the demand? Well, there can't be any demand if you don't have them. So it's a very delicate kind of dance. So we felt like changing the language to put consideration of them in would be appropriate.
Seems appropriate, yeah.
Then working down, adopt a fuel efficient vehicle policy for town-owned vehicles so that replacement vehicles are more energy efficient. A big portion of that is cost prohibitiveness, because we know that replacing police cars and town vehicles is expensive enough as it is. How much would the cost of replacement be if it were required that they be electric vehicles?
How long would the battery last?
Correct. So that's the reason why we felt like at this time. And the next one, adopt an anti-idling vehicle policy for town-owned vehicles. Again, difficult to enforce, almost impossible to enforce. And, for instance, if you have a town-owned vehicle or you have like the senior van and it's cold weather, they're gonna keep that car running so they have the heat going. So does it really make sense to have an anti-idling policy when you need to keep a vehicle running and warm? Or in the summer, running and cool? And
I
then,
was thinking with an all-electric vehicle, how long can you keep one of those warm?
Yeah.
and that decreases the battery life, the air conditioning and the heating system running those. It knocks down the battery life. Assess and upgrade electrical infrastructure to meet growing need of electric vehicles. Again, not at this, it didn't seem to make sense at this point in time. Maybe in the future, it'll become something that's
2050.
I think, yes, in the future it'd be a good idea, and I believe the select board has been asked many times about infrastructure in this town, so I know they're gonna probably keep their eye on it.
Yes. So the next one was removing explore alternatives to car travel such as rideshare, paratransit, and carpool. Again, we felt Rutland at this point in time maybe not be appropriate, and is that really something for the town to become involved in? If people want to carpool or rideshare,
Yeah,
that's something that you know, they could explore.
let them check with the neighbors.
Revise zoning in appropriate areas to require sidewalks, bike path connectors, bicycle parking, and bike amenities. This is something that the planning board has done with certain subdivisions.
Yes.
As just mentioned by Dick. So, not really a zoning thing, this is something for conditions of approval within individual decisions. So, but what we did add in there is include bicycle network planning into the town's planning process, particularly land use development and transportation plans. So that's something that is definitely a good idea to continue that planning. And then that makes it easier when a project comes forward that's in an area where the town knows they want this, to have that as a condition of approval. So, the next three down, review the recommendations from the 2018 CMMPO Regional Bike Plan and adopt the plan. Ensure that municipal staff are aware. Include bicycle network planning into the towns. Again, we moved that up, and those other things. Some of the things that I've found with these items as far as implementation are really, I don't know how to put it, but really they're just so general. They're not, you know, should this be a goal of the master plan to, you know, make staff aware, do this? Staff is automatically aware of these things. I know Austin and myself, we get the emails from CMRPC regarding the tip and the project. So these are already things that we're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's it for that page. So moving on to page 4. Work with businesses and other organizations to identify areas of potential collaboration for developing and funding electric vehicle infrastructure. Again, that's something where if individual businesses want to do that, they can, but not sure if the town has the staff or the time to be involved with that. Anticipate changes in parking requirements resulting from autonomous vehicles. How can we do that? We can't. First of all, how can we anticipate that? And why should parking regulations change just because vehicles are now self-driving? It's you know, so.
But this is a right to farm community. It's okay for tractors to be self-driving, aren't they?
Oh, God.
No.
Then the next one, monitor trends in drone usage for delivery and other services. Again, that's something that the town, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
You know, so it's really one of those things that there's really nothing tangible there to do. So, a couple other, you know, word changes. Instead of focus visual improvement efforts on Gateway, promote aesthetic and visual improvement, so just a change there. And then down below, allow flag lots with a reduced frontage. We already do this. We have flag lot provisions in general and also in our open space designs, we allow them. Concentrate new development around existing infrastructure. That's already part of smart growth. That's already something that we try to do, so didn't feel that that was necessary to be in here. Page 6.
Page 5.
I'm sorry. No, we were just on page 5. Oh, 4, I'm sorry. I skipped a page. Yeah, page 6, I'm sorry, page 5. Yep, I had them reversed. So page 5. So there was I don't believe there was anything taken out here, just some changes. The most significant one is down, instead of implement zoning to preserve historic structures in historic areas, it was changed to consider adoption of a demolition delay bylaw and encourage owners of historic buildings to apply for inclusion on the State Register of Historic Buildings. Also develop a list of historic buildings in Rutland, so a little bit more inclusive.
I think that's an excellent idea. And I hope the historic, let's put it this way, I've had comments from several people that they did not know about the historic, you know, getting it registered and all that. And I hope that in the near future, our historic society will get out there and push it.
And a lot of these zoning changes, I simply removed the ZBA because nowhere have I been has the ZBA been really involved in writing zoning bylaw amendments and promoting zoning bylaw amendments, because the ZBA is normally a quasi-judicial board. Now I know in this town they have certain special permanent site plan approval capability, but normally a ZBA does not involve itself in the process of writing zoning bylaws, and doesn't seem like it's been a history of them doing it here either.
I'd really like to see a list of the historic buildings.
I would too. Especially right now, where there's the oldest one in Rutland.
Yeah,
And he had asked somebody to get it registered, and the person almost like disappeared and never heard from her for 7 months now. I've been waiting for her to get back, waiting for her to get back to him.
yeah.
Nothing.
It's not something you can do on your own, you have to
No.
have a sponsor
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's it.
Yeah, and that building needs help.
Yes, it does.
So that's it for page 5.
Right at the very top, you crossed that one out.
What's that? Oh, yeah, resolve legal ambiguities with new platforms for small-scale shared use such as Airbnbs, Uber. Again, not the role of town government to resolve
Exactly.
legal ambiguities.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a good catch, Dick, thank you. Page 6, at the top, upzone identified neighborhoods while maintaining desiring housing forms. Again, that's pretty confusing, upzoning. We already consider those things, and, you know, obviously with this new, Affordable Home Act with the, ADUs, we're gonna have to, we're
Yeah.
kind of being made to do that anyway, so, didn't feel like that was something that was appropriate to be in here because, again, we're trying hard to maintain rural character as much as possible.
Yeah. Describe upzoning real quick.
More intense. Zone it from residential to something else, mixed use,
Okay.
business, commercial, things like that. Which is also a challenge with limited water and sewer. Because the property's not gonna be as desirable if it doesn't have town
can't-
water and sewer for commercial
capacity.
use.
Yeah.
So again, just some wording changes. You'll notice that they had TM for town manager, not realizing we have a town administrator. So that was changed in several spots. So adopt new bylaws for the Conservation Commission, such as local wetland bylaw, and we added to include a minimum required upland to wetland ratio for development of a parcel. So just some clarifications, and the only, so down below, a couple things that were removed under housing and population. Consider modifying the existing ADU bylaw to allow more flexible options, which we're going to be doing anyway, so
Yeah.
it doesn't really need to be in here. Explore adoption, be more flexible options for senior renters. You can't really do that. You can't develop 40B units and say it can only be for seniors or it can only be for that. It has to be all inclusive. Explore adoption of a cottage housing bylaw, a variation of open space bylaw that provides density bonuses in exchange for common open areas. That's basically our open space design. So pretty much already done that. Down below, construct senior housing units to accommodate an aging population, make existing housing available to families. Again, we have over 55 housing going up at the Heights, but again,
Yeah.
does the town really, at this point, are we ready to get into the housing development business? Not really in that position to do that.
You know, since we went through this to today, there's one more thing I wish to heck, and the Conservation Commission, such as local wetland bylaws, also Zone A territory. Cause I am so livid about a situation right now, of a house being allowed within 20 feet of a tributary to Quinnipiac Reservoir. And let's just say, it shouldn't have happened, and that's the one I had asked you, John, about the, if you look up in 1976 or something, 75, Jim Calix. But you never found it.
No.
And I asked Anita about it, and she hasn't found it
No.
either, so
John,
I've gotta
Yes.
look up it.
if I may, Jen has her hand up on.
Oh, Jen, yes. Jen?
You're muted.
Sorry, it took me a minute to find the button. May I ask a question? Jen Ledger, Joanna Drive.
Yeah.
Do we have anything in, I'm assuming it's our bylaws or open space, but related to, say, thinking for the affordable housing piece, for developers that for every X number of houses they build, 10%, or for every 10 houses, one of those has to be
No.
an affordable housing. Do we have anything like that?
No, we don't. And Jen, that's referred to as inclusionary zoning. And
Okay.
I have worked in towns that have it. It can be we don't have it. That's the simple answer, but they can be controversial. And I've worked in a couple towns that have started working on it. And for some reason, a lot of residents don't like that.
Yeah.
Because something about the stigma of allowing 40B housing everywhere in town. So we don't have that, is the simple answer. I mean, if the town wanted to work on that, but at this, but the other thing is, the other difficult thing about monitoring 40B housing units that are ownership units spread out throughout the town is the staff time and the monitoring of them to make sure that when they resell, that they comply with the relevant restrictions. I've worked in communities like Wareham where, unfortunately, these state agencies like DHCD do not monitor their own units. Basically, if someone is selling a 40B house, it's their requirement that they contact the state to find out what the restrictions for resale are. And if they don't do that, and they sell it for, say, more than the allowable profit that they're allowed to make, then the town has to spend legal funds to go after that money, and even if they get it back, then that housing unit falls off the SHI because it's no longer considered affordable. So, inclusionary zoning has its positives, but it's very, very difficult to monitor when you have them sprinkled throughout town, especially when they're ownership units. Rental units are much more easy to monitor because they're not ownership. They don't sell and resell. They have one owner with renters. So have to be careful when you go into inclusionary zoning because they can open up some pitfalls and you may inadvertently end up losing units over time inadvertently because, again, the state doesn't monitor them, unfortunately. Towns don't really have the staff dedicated to monitor them to know when they go on the market. So it's difficult. It can end up being an unintended detriment.
Okay.
And Jen, we did, a lot of years ago, Moose Meadow, was it?
Yeah, Moose Crossing.
Moose Crossing Estates.
We tried.
We tried with 3 houses and we wanted low income but we also wanted the town employees, if they were looking for housing, they were gonna have some kind of a chance to, which one would get the house, a drawing or something like that.
A lottery.
A lottery.
Yes.
But, so help me, nobody could keep track of it and the builder did not want to do it.
Right.
No,
Yeah. And
I
that's
can understand the builders not wanting to do it because they don't make as much money off
Right.
of them, but
Correct.
but we do have requirements to have it, so how can we come up with creative ways to start moving towards those requirements that are not, we're not looking at a whole bunch of triple deckers all together, we want it to fit in with the community, so are there ways that we can work it into the plan to,
Well, that's the other thing is that's the $1 million question is some of these subdivisions that are already underway, like that, for instance, that have 100 lots for the sake of argument, 10 of those units could be affordable potentially, but those subdivisions are already under construction. So now we're looking at how much housing can we expect going forward? And okay, so if you have a subdivision of 50 lots and you have 5 affordable units, every unit counts, but at the same time, I think we're at what, not 3%?
It's not gonna get us far.
I think Austin and I did the math several months ago, and I think we need about 250. We need about 250 units to get up to our 10%. But that's the other challenge is now with this ADU bylaw that we're gonna have to work on, now allowing, multiple ADUs potentially, every accessory dwelling unit that we allow adds to our inventory for market rate units. So it's almost like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That 10% is such an elusive target. It's really tough to meet and maintain, especially for a town like Rutland. So there would have to be a lengthy discussion as far as for inclusionary zoning, as far as what you would like the percentage to be. And again, it's the fact of monitoring. The lottery costs money. It costs several $1,000s to run a lottery for a housing unit. So who's gonna bear that cost? Who's gonna do that? Who's gonna monitor it once they're
Where are you
in?
gonna find a builder that's gonna want it because.
Correct. And that's the other thing is, once you have a unit, say it doesn't sell for 10 years, boards change, employees change, it's that, especially, where obviously the record keeping in small towns like this hasn't always been great. So we're trying to make it better, but, there are lots of challenges that would have to be, discussed and resolved, and so yeah, it's certainly something some towns have done, but you have to lay it all out, lay out the pros and cons and see if it works for you.
And something that I brought up a long time ago, but I could never get a answer. I always asked, could Cool Sandy Beach area be classified as low-income housing? Because it's only 100 by 100 foot.
Yes, but not to go on the SHI because it hasn't been done through a lottery.
Through a lottery.
It hasn't been certified by DHCD.
It's such small houses down
Because,
there.
yeah, I've worked in towns that have nice trailer parks that say,
Yeah.
well, why can't this count?
Exactly.
Because it has to go through the approval process, through DHCD, it has to be certified. If it hasn't gone through that, you can't. And that's another shortcoming of chapter 40B.
Wow.
So no, it's
Okay.
definitely something, if the select board and the planning board want to look into that in the near future, we could start talking about inclusionary zoning and decide, what that would look like. But again, it has its challenges.
Yes.
That we'd have to resolve.
Well, if we can never make 10%, then
Well, and that's the reason that a lot of towns, and I know what you're saying, I understand obviously, Jen, about the 3-deckers. But the other thing is, you have a subdivision of 100 homes go in and 10 of those houses count towards your 40B. So, if you have rental units that go in, all of those units count towards your 40B, not just 10%, not just the 25% that are considered affordable under the formula.
yeah.
Every single rental unit counts towards your SHI. And again, it's easier to monitor, because again, it has one ownership entity monitoring all the units. So you put in, say, 100 apartments, all 100 apartments go to your SHI, not a small percentage of a larger development. So that's the trade-off is, okay, yes, great, we get 10 40B units, but we also get 90 other market rate homes, and what does that do to the town as well? What's the impact on the town?
And right now, the next subdivision's coming in, it's already been filed and everything else, and there are no
Right.
affordable housing in it.
Right.
So there's 120 new houses that
And
are
that's the other thing
max.
you'd have to look at is how many more housing units like that, single-family housing units, is the town reasonably going to expect?
Yeah.
Right, well, and that's the only reason why I would ask that we keep this, towards the forefront, because the land is there, it's being bought up, it's being developed, and if we don't get something in place to try and make progress in this area, we're not gonna have a choice, there's not gonna be anything left.
Right.
So
Right.
what do we do then?
Right.
So it just,
Yep,
can we start exploring those options a little bit more?
right.
Seems like countryside is a place where that might be our 3%, cause I know sometimes you
Yeah, I
can
don't know,
get
we have a few different ones.
Yeah, you can get the state to pay for your housing. I don't know if that becomes low income, if.
Well, I don't know how much, I don't know how much they'll pay for your housing, I'd have to look into that, I'm not really educated on the funding for that. So, okay, so,
Something to keep in mind.
yes, it is.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
So, page 7, create an inventory of town-owned land suitable for new housing development. We've already done this, we have that. Advocate for a higher inclusion of accessible units in proposed affordable housing developments. That's really an ADA or an architectural access board thing, that's not really something that the town gets involved in. That's a construction element. Down below, develop a municipal affordable housing trust fund to have readily accessible funds. Again, I think we have a lot of priorities before this. Obviously, we've been talking about CPA, we've been talking about developing policies and things like this. This is really something that's really advanced, having an affordable trust fund. So again, it's something that, again, I think, if we're at step A, this is step P.
Yeah.
So, explore adoption of a workforce housing special tax assessment. Again, I think it's, residential housing is already, explore adoption of a workforce housing special tax assessment area in which developers can be offered a property tax incentive to build housing affordable for low to middle income residents. That's great, but residential housing is already a negative in terms of tax revenue when you include children and the cost of schooling the children. So to reduce someone's taxes for that, you know, is not sure that that's gonna be a great thing for the town with the economic challenges that the town's facing.
Can bite you.
Yeah, explore the creation of a buy down program whereby the town uses funds to buy down market rate homes. Again, very cost prohibitive. Is, you know, the town's trying to establish CPA to potentially purchase
Land.
open space, so we don't have, this is something where, again, this is something that could be done through CPA potentially, but, and that's it for page 7. Page 8. Again, explore the option of adopting the demolition delay bylaw. We had that up top.
Yeah, it's mentioned twice. Is
Yeah,
that the reason why
yeah,
you wanted to get
it's
rid of
redundant,
it?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Allow space for non-conforming lot parcel creation. You can't do that. You're not legally allowed to create a non-conforming lot, so that's why I took that out of there. Utilize zoning to section off areas of historic land and properties not conforming to the surrounding land use. This is spot zoning. So if you're gonna create different zoning for a parcel, you can't really do that. It has to be some kind of continuity or something, so, that's why I thought that really didn't make, a lot of sense to me. I understand the intention, but, so anyway, that's something that would probably risk being considered spot zoning. And I think that's it for that page. Again, just a couple other minor changes in terms of, instead of enroll property owners and other associates in the preservation of historic, educate and train them in the preservation of historic and culturally important properties. So moving on to page 9, there aren't many changes there. The one that was taken out, construct new wayfinding signage, strengthen gateway features, and explore alternative modes of placemaking projects and beautification. Already accomplished by the last master plan, when I was talking to Tim and Dick about this. Page 10, the only thing that was taken out were a couple things. Update scenic road bylaw within Rutland to include new roads such as Davis Street, Cloverdale Road, and Irish Lane. This come a direct quote from Dick and Tim. Rutland doesn't need more ways to make development more difficult. So that's something where certainly, I believe, if someone wanted to apply to be a scenic road, they certainly could. The next, right under that, we added in, explore the possibility of selective tree cutting to open up scenic viewpoints potentially.
Yes, by all means.
And
Do you
then,
know of any? Which one?
Quite a few,
Yeah,
and not very far from here, right there.
so,
Yeah,
Take that down, you can see all the way out to the Berkshires. In case people don't know where they are.
so a couple down, develop a committee that is dedicated but not limited to community-funded opportunities such as fundraisers, targeted toward community involvement, historical education, and raising awareness of the preservation of important historic assets. According to Dick and Tim, we already have this. We already have groups that do this. We have the events committee and other groups. I mean, we basically just, Tamika and the EDC are doing a food donation program. So we've now started having ribbon cutting ceremonies for new businesses, things like that. Obviously, 4th of July is a big thing, so Rutland already does things like that. Page 11, down to the second half of the page down at the bottom. Work with the Holden Area Chamber of Commerce or nearby higher education institutions to provide resources such as technical assistance and feasibility studies to study specific businesses. Again, we don't have enough large businesses in Rutland to really get involved with that. Have selected businesses list items purchased out of state and organize an auction for local businesses. Again, that's really a private sector thing.
Yeah.
Again, work with Holden Area Chamber of Commerce and nearby universities to develop additional resources local, such as marketing databases and training programs. Again, businesses can market themselves and have their own training and things like that. Work with Holden Area Chamber of Commerce, develop a database for connecting purchasers with suppliers. Again, these businesses know their purchasers and suppliers, and again, what business, I mean, are we gonna, you know,
Be
we don't have
invisible.
staff time to be, you know,
Yeah,
connecting these businesses. Review special permit granting authorities for potential friction points and roadblocks. Not really sure what that means, but if they're talking about friction points and roadblocks called, pertaining to permitting, I mean, the town has online permitting for various things. And also, from what I've witnessed, I haven't witnessed projects really being held up adversely at those board levels. I mean, the ZBA got through the Dunkin' Donuts changes fairly quickly. I haven't witnessed the planning board unduly. I mean, we just approved a business sign in one meeting. So I really don't think there's.
top two.
Oh, top two, thank you. Establish a grant administrator manager position to identify, apply for funding opportunities. Departments already apply for grant funding for their own departments. So I know the fire department does, police does, so again, this is step P.
Yeah.
We're on step A. We're not, the town is not really at that level yet, I don't believe. Pilot a part-time shared economic development coordinator. Again, the same thing. I know the EDC has been pushing this, but we really don't have any economic development to speak of right now very much. We're trying to promote it and we're trying to get some going. But really, there's really not the justification for the cost of something like that at this time. Page 12. Facilitate the establishment of formal farming connections with clear lines of communication developed from the current informal network. Again, this is not the role of town government. I believe that people like Randy have their connections. They're way more connected than any of us could ever be within the farming community. They talk, they're on these boards, so that's really something that's already happening. Then use permitting software that tracks permit status. We already have that. Now, I would like to add the planning board to that at some point in the fairly near future to have us involved in online permitting as well. Conduct outreach to identify opportunities and barriers to bringing a small and mid-sized grocery store to Rutland. We know what the roadblocks are.
Yeah.
So we're gonna keep trying. So we've already identified those. We're trying to overcome them, if you will, and get somebody here. But again, as our population grows, hopefully that will change. Use customer profiling to know the variety of reasons customers and tourists may visit. Again, that's, town government can't really do that. And besides, in town government, whether it's paying taxes or coming to the planning board, they kind of have to come to the planning board. They kind of have to go to the Conservation Commission or the CPA. All right, page, we have 13, okay, good. Let's see, so up top, organize a business investment event where residents and established businesses or community groups can donate to a pool of funding. So again, good idea, but we have groups to do some of these things, but again, this is something that's really kind of high level stuff once we have more businesses in town. Conduct a comprehensive zoning diagnostic to ensure zoning is consistent with the goals of the master plan. This is something that's ongoing. I mean, whenever we do a zoning bylaw amendment, we, use the master plan as a
Only
guide.
gonna be tweaks.
Yes. Identify residentially zoned building properties that could be suitable for non-residential use. Again, we don't wanna do spot zoning. We can look at areas, whether it's along Route 68 or whatever, for things like that, but gotta be careful with that.
I was gonna make a short comment about spot zoning. If we run out of land to do anything, the only thing left will be spot zoning, if you wanted to do anything, Say all the residential, say it's just a full residential town, then there's either no services or you have to kind of adjust.
Well, no, because what we have is, we can look at areas. like
Large
the Four
scales.
Corners area, we can look at the, like when we did the town center zoning. You look at an area, you don't just look at
At
one
one lot,
lot.
okay.
Now, we do have
I
some
see what
lots,
you mean.
like Glenn Coppola's property is zoned business, and that's one property that's zoned that way.
Yeah.
Technically, if that wouldn't be allowed today, that would be considered spot zoning.
Okay.
So what the state wants you to do is they don't want you to look at one lot, they want you to look at a group of lots or an area.
Okay.
So, that's what spot zoning is when you, take
Single
an
lot.
individual parcel that's zoned differently from the surrounding area,
Yeah,
and that's considered spot zoning. Create a vacancy registry process to facilitate constructive dialogue between commercial property owners with vacant properties and town staff. This is just something that, again, not enough commercial properties to do this. We have a lot of home-based businesses. But, a vacancy registry process, I mean, yeah, that's something that, would be tough to keep process. Inventory-specific buildings with information to encourage investment such as physical characteristics, rental rates, and identification of tax delinquent property. Again, we have the tax title process, but this is also covered by prior economic development brochure. And also that's, this is something we're working on, but, to inventory-specific buildings, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
We're trying to look at properties and we're trying to look at areas, but again, a lot of this stuff is very time-intensive, and, utilize tax incentives to incentivize commercial and light industrial businesses and development. Again, we already have that through the TIF process. And the other thing is, you wanna be very careful when you give TIFs, because, there are businesses out there that will use that to their advantage. They'll get a 7-year TIF in a town. Once that 7 years is done, they will go somewhere else, so they don't have to pay full taxes.
Yes.
The other thing is, a big thing is job creation. How many jobs is that business gonna create? And will Rutland get the type of business that will create 100, 200 jobs? Don't know that.
I suspect Amazon does that. That's
Right.
why they got the leverage they have in certain cities and stuff like that.
John, what does TIF stand for? I'm just
Ta-
curious.
tax increment financing. So what happens is, one thing that was kind of controversial in Wareham was that, the economic development director there was encouraging the town to approve a TIF for a hotel. People weren't too crazy about that because a hotel really doesn't generate a lot of jobs. Yes, it brings people in and you get the meals and the rooms tax, but it doesn't generate 100, 200 jobs. It may generate a couple dozen jobs, if that. And also, it's a very unique use, a hotel. It's not like when a hotel closes down, you can put a warehouse in there, So that's why TIFs are for a certain amount of years, like usually 7 years, 8 years, sometimes up to 14 years. But a city like Brockton has a lot of TIFs because they have large companies that go in there and they employ a lot of people. Stoughton had a handful of TIFs because they had an industrial park, and they had, like Globe Enterprises that manufacture submarine parts for the Navy, things like that. Those are the type of projects that normally get TIFs because they generate a lot of jobs and they generate a lot of revenue for the town. So that's usually one of the key components is job creation. And normally a town will give a TIF if they have a company like that wants to expand, and if they don't give them a tax rate, they may leave the town. So they're also meant to retain a business that creates a lot of jobs or provides a lot of jobs to the town.
Thank you.
Speaking of indoors, what was the last one? Your tax incentives, all right. Use zoning and related mechanisms to incorporate small group principles into, we already do that. So, we're already being done. And, unfunded mandates by the state, sometimes encourages, but sometimes our laws actually run counter to this. And we've talked about that with these residential subdivisions that the planning board can't legally deny, but they're putting in huge pump stations and wells and things like that. So technically, these large residential subdivisions are not smart growth because they're not developing where the town has existing infrastructure. They're creating their own infrastructure, so. Explore strategies for providing tax incentives, again, to encourage business growth, Again, we want to be careful because one thing we're trying to do is we're trying to promote non-residential tax rates. And we're trying to bring in businesses to beef up our non-residential tax base. So I don't think the town wants to be going too crazier on tax incentives. We're trying to get businesses in here, and plus, we only have, we have one tax rate, we don't have a split tax rate, so everyone's on the same level. Explore strategies for incentivizing local business patronages, such as giving community members discounts to participating businesses. Aren't we doing that with the potential raffle with the food donation, Tamika? So, we're already doing things like this at the local level. And the EDC, when we do this economic development brochure, they're gonna have bags with the town seal on it. When people move into town, we're gonna ask local businesses to donate things to go in those bags. Page 14, we're almost done, guys. Explore sub-regional and multi-town opportunities for collaborative marketing and development. Again, this is a tricky one because towns don't normally play well together. And also towns have differing priorities. I mean, Holden's much different than Rutland, which is different from Paxton. Towns have different views of things. So, yeah, that's again, that's something that's kind of, marketing and development. It's easy to the town of Bellingham. The reason businesses come to the town of Bellingham is because it's right on Route 495 and it has two exits off Route 495. Location. So again, Rutland's is trying to overcome the challenges, so it's much easier for a town like that to market itself when you're right on Route 495 than it is when you're far off the highway. So Blackstone and Bellingham are right next to each other with much different circumstances.
If only Route 49 was finished and put in Rutland.
Oh my God, that's gonna go on your gravestone, Dick, I swear.
Thank you. I'll have it put on next week.
So, facilitate awareness among businesses and other residents to support the economic vitality of home occupations. I mean, I'm in the process of developing a master business list, but there are lots of people who do work out of their homes, and so I don't view this necessarily as the role of town government to market home occupations. It's kind of their job to do that. Again, that's a slippery slope when you start getting into that.
To keep the town out of it.
Because you don't know sometimes if the town is marketing on behalf of a home occupation, if the home occupation is creating a nuisance for its neighbors, and the neighbors aren't very happy about having that home occupation, that's something.
How come the town's helping them but not me?
That's the other thing.
Yep.
Oh, believe me, that came up with the economic development brochure at the EDC, as far as target properties. Someone said, well, somebody would say, why isn't my property on there? So, you're right, Dick, that can happen. Explore low-cost regional social media marketing strategies such as self-guided Instagram tour. We have this through the town website and other means. Obviously, we have the new website that just got up and running a little less than a year ago. And so, and I think the people who run the social media in this town do an excellent job. So I think that's something that we've already done pretty well. Down below, allow and encourage use of road shoulders, excess parking, sidewalks, and appropriate areas for outdoor dining, retail, and gathering spaces. Again, not appropriate for Rutland, and it can be unsafe. That was an issue during COVID in Stoughton when they were allowing tables to be on the sidewalks to keep people outside. That's great, but now you're blocking sidewalks and ADA requirements and things like that. So you wanna be careful with that. Identify certain streets in town that could be utilized to carry out tactical urbanism events. Not appropriate for, I don't think that's appropriate. Sounds like a military thing, doesn't it? Page 15, there's really only one omission down at the bottom. Consider working with the WRTA and CMRPC to study potential transit options or find opportunities to collaborate with nearby towns. Again, didn't feel that was,
Don't wanna get involved.
No.
Keep them away. Unless they're gonna put a rail transit in all the way through. Connect to the rail trail, rail next to 49.
And a couple, now page 16, identify funding sources for the action items listed above and the background work necessary. That's redundant to me. I mean, that doesn't need to be stated. And down below, hire a grant manager to identify grant opportunities. Again, we already went through that previously. Page 17. We have identify funding sources for the action items listed above. Again, redundant. Conduct a municipal space needs study. It's already been listed above and it's ongoing. I know, obviously, at the last town meeting with the presentation that was given on Article 2, that's something that's happening. And down below, explore the development of a shuttle program with the WRTA for seniors and other residents who lack transportation options. WRTA, I don't believe, has service in Rutland, but the senior center already does this.
Right.
They have vans that bring the seniors to various shopping places. Two vans, so. And lastly, page 18. Again, conduct a municipal space study, already doing it. Now, some of these below, I've never seen this in a master plan where they advocate for specific departments like this. Ensure that in discussions of budget priorities, the DPW is recognized as a critical part of public safety. Yes, they are. We know they are.
Yeah.
But again, this is a general overall view, so we just, and then the next one, create an infrastructure fund that would assist the DPW with improvements throughout the town at municipal intersections, roadways, and corridors. So again, it seems very, very specific. Support the DPW to hire more staff members. Find additional funding for the Department of Public Works to hire more staff. So we just felt.
DPW knows somebody at CMR.
Yeah, I was gonna say, somebody pulled some strings to get these things in here, but yeah, again, not necessarily, that's something that can be done through the municipal process and budgets and things like that. And I think there's recognition that the DPW plays a vital role in all these things, so
Betcha.
I don't think there's any problem there. So anyway, so that's it.
Let's see, how many millions of dollars in order to get new hot top roads in town?
So, just to sum up, here's what I'm hoping for tonight, and Dick came in really fired up tonight. I've been here for 13 months. We've been trying hard to get this done. Now, part of the reason it's not done yet is not totally, our doing. I mean, CMRPC wanted to wait for the open space and recreation plan to get far enough where they could take their implementation strategies and add them in here, which will happen next. What I would like to do is, again, I've tried to do my best to balance the comments, the updating, and believe me, in sitting down with Tim and Dick, I definitely saw the areas that need to be corrected, and I could see the reasons why they wanted to omit certain things, so I'm glad we had the discussion. So this has been through a public process previously. It's been through extensive discussions with Dick, Tim, and myself 3 separate times, probably for a total of about 8 to 9 hours.
Yeah, wow.
So I really don't want to belabor this any more than tonight, so I really would like to keep the comments very minimal and vote to approve this so I can get it to CMRPC, get it implemented, they can add the open space and recreation goals and objectives into that, and let's get this going, so, because we could keep commenting on this till the cows come home.
Oh, they're coming home?
Yeah, so please, for all that's good and holy, let's please put this to bed and get this put forward to CMRPC. So I'm not gonna say I'm begging, but I'm asking very politely if we could just move forward with this. I know, Norm, you've expressed this to me in person. So anyway, and you have a cover just explaining some of the other changes to the implementation. Yeah, right there. So things like that. So, some of the stuff that we consider to be kind of superfluous, just take it out of there. So, the introductory part of the implementation chapter, the list of potential representatives on the implementation committee should be 1 select board member, 1 planning board, 1 capital planning committee, 1 finance committee, town planner, conservation commission, recreation, historical commission, and 1 from the agricultural commission. That was the recommendation in terms of a committee. And the explanations of representation, education, accountability, and adaptability should be removed because we really don't need to explain those things. So just some aesthetic changes and editorial changes. And then the rest is just explaining what was done with the implementation table. So
I got a couple comments,
okay,
just short.
on what page?
So, this improvement of sidewalks, so on page 1,
Mm-hmm.
second objective,
Yep.
third one down, just mentions evaluate to conduct sidewalk,
Yep.
crosswalk, signals survey program, identified area needs of improvement funding, including Mass DOT. It's put down as a high priority.
Which one is this?
So second bullet, second.
Objective?
Blue bar,
Yeah,
and it's just a reference
Well,
to
hold
the
on, hold
next item I'm gonna bring up.
hold on, Keith, I'm trying to get where you are.
So,
Second objective, continue to invest in maintenance, and which one, how far down, third one down?
second
Second
action
one.
item.
Evaluate the need to conduct a sidewalk, crosswalk, and signal survey program,
Yeah, so it's set to a high priority there, but on.
but magnitude of cost is medium.
Yes, but on page 2, which would be second objective, second line, it says review signage at sidewalks considered solar powered pedestrian activated alert flashers, shows low priority. And I'd say that's.
Hold on, I'm not seeing where you are.
Yep, so second,
Oh, okay.
second objective.
Yep. First one, incorporate additional signage or
Review, so second action item under.
assess and implement as warranted the use of reflective.
No, so next objective, next block,
Oh, okay,
and then second action item.
okay.
Review signage.
At crosswalks to consider solar powered pedestrian activated alert flashers.
You know, I know on Main Street, that's like the biggest thing is, you could cross across Main Street to the Common, back and forth where all the events usually are,
Okay.
and there's no, we don't have the most up-to-date,
So do
flashes for
you,
that.
so what are you recommending?
High priority,
What do you guys think about that?
to bump it up, so it's something that we can all work on, I think. Obviously, that takes planning, with CMRPC and.
Well, no, not
transportation.
necessarily CMRPC, no, it's,
Okay.
town administrator,
MassDOT.
DPW.
MassDOT, yeah.
Yes.
It could be MassDOT, yes.
I think a lot of people are,
Ticked off.
yeah, they
That's
don't wanna
me.
they don't wanna get killed crossing the street, and that's essentially a 50-mile-an-hour highway, even though it's measured at a much lower
Yes.
speed rating. A flasher would give people, 50 or more feet to see while you're in an intersection, while
As I stated, the veterinarian's daughter, when she was very young, crossed right by Maple Ave, got hit by a car, she almost died. How many years after that did we kept on trying and trying, begging MassDOT to put some kind of a light in,
yeah. So,
and never did?
Okay, so do you guys agree with that?
I would.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just low to high, just to make sure someone somehow gets, and there's up to 4 crosswalks. There's
Okay.
one at the vet.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's one at.
Gas station.
At the hill, the top of the crest of the hill at the police station, then, in front of town hall, and then further down in front of the school, so it's
Okay.
almost four areas that could just use that new technology. you
Okay.
know.
Yeah, I can buy that.
That's really my
Okay.
big thing to do in there. Yeah, hopefully it can get a process going on it.
so,
So, looking for a motion to, I guess I'll say forward these revisions to this table, to CMRPC. I'd like to say as our final review.
and then once CMRPC implements this and also gets the open space and recreation, goals and objectives, I can bring it back for the planning board for a final vote on the entire master plan.
With corrections?
I'm not gonna show all the corrections, no, it's gonna be the final version with all the corrections, so,
I did give it to Janet
yeah,
she made a copy a long time ago.
yeah.
Whether she does anything about it, I don't know. I don't mind passing it on. It has to be done sooner or later.
And
It's already
it's looking like
later.
it's later, it's already later.
But do we start the clock? What,
Well-
we haven't voted. Is it 10 years after
Can we just get this approved, please? Can we just get this approved?
It was master plan 2023.
No.
I think you guys whittled down everything that's not
Yeah,
something that we need to focus on.
and
you
there's
know.
still
You did a
an
good
awful
job.
lot of stuff in there.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
problem, when it takes so long to approve this, yes, you're right, the clock starts ticking on the next one, so time is of the essence.
I'm just gonna copy and paste the next one though.
No, I'm not, you don't even wanna think about it yet.
I won't be around.
Again,
I'm not gonna be around.
baby steps.
You'll be around.
Yeah. I'll remember this day then. I'll make a motion to accept the table as presented with corrections that was presented by John.
And forward to,
And
CMRPC.
forwarded to CMRPC.
Second.
is there any further discussion? Any discussion from the public anywhere? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll get that done probably early next week at this point, because it's a holiday week, so, but that'll get done.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes, it's getting a little brighter. And actually, Norm, under correspondence, I did get something in today that I would like to share with the board, just for its information. Came in this afternoon on the planner's listserv. Not sure what the reasoning is for this, but if the board is aware, at a couple times in the past, the state has approved a permit extension act. Back in 2008, 2010, when we had our recession, and then during COVID. So basically, in essence, this third extension act provides that specifically an approval in effect or in existence during the tolling period between January 1st, 2023 to January 1st, 2025 inclusive shall be extended for a period of 2 years from its expiration date, and no action is required of the board or the applicant. They automatically get extended. The granting of the approval does not have to occur during that period. However, the approval only has to be in effect during that tolling period. But we had a question today, because I talked to Austin Tamika about this. This is interesting for approvals that are good for 1 year, such as variances, the ZBA issues, or conservation has 1 year approvals too, correct?
You know, I'm thinking more on that. I don't think we do.
Okay.
I think we do 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
But licenses that the select board give out,
Right,
such
those are
as
all 1 year.
1 year licenses. So now all those are maximally extended for 2 when the town only approves them for 1. So that would be something the town council would have to answer. But in terms of the planning board, it means that the extension that we gave to the car wash probably wasn't necessary because they were within this tolling period, but we extended them until March of next year anyway. But what this means is I'm gonna have to look at that date. They may be automatically extended for longer than what we extended them for. So what I'm gonna start working on at the suggestion of Austin is next week, I'm gonna start working on a spreadsheet with all the active approvals that the planning board has in place. Obviously, A&Rs, this doesn't apply because the board has 21 days to act on that. This would be for special permits, site plan reviews, subdivision approvals. And it applies to all boards, Concom, ZBA as well, so, and it says, let's see, it does say, an approval is broadly defined as any permit, certificate, order, excluding enforcement orders such as, it does exclude enforcement orders, licenses, certifications, things like that, so it doesn't apply to those 1 year licenses.
Oh.
So that answers the question. So it doesn't apply to those 1 year licenses and things that the select board approves. Oh, it excludes variances, waivers, building permits, things like that. So I'll put a spreadsheet together here in the next couple weeks of the approvals that we have, just so we make sure we keep an eye on these, because no action needs to be taken, but we need to know that.
Yeah.
So if it does come up, then we'll know.
This just maxes it out to 2025, the end of,
Well,
is that
so
what
say,
they're saying?
so hold on, so say something was due to expire in December next month. They're automatically extended for 2 years to December of 2026.
Okay, based on the date.
Yes. But what I did in other towns when this has come up is, even though no action was required by the board, when something would come up, I would prepare a communication or get a communication from that applicant seeking an extension that the Extension Act applies to them, and therefore no action needs to be taken by the board, just to have something for the files, so we can reflect that.
Suppose they need to get involved with it, but it's a way for them to.
Yeah, we're not, again, this is something that just came out today. I'm not sure why they felt the need to do it now, but they did, so. So that's it for correspondence.
Okay, town planner report.
Upcoming open space design subdivision, so Norm and I had met with the applicant informally a while ago, Jim Harity, down off Emerald and Welch, remember coming in to talk about that? And the designs at the time, we took a preliminary look at it, they didn't conform to our regulations, so the applicant had to go back and come back with a new design, and he has, which basically meets the town's requirements. So I want to notify the board that a pre-application is gonna be held on December 3rd by department heads to take a look at this. And I already got comments from the fire chief today. So this is an open space design, which is a special permit for a subdivision because it allows lesser frontage, flag lots, allows smaller lots than would normally be allowed. So the applicant's required to present a conventional subdivision to show how many lots they could get out of a conventional subdivision.
Correct.
And then an open space design, but they're not allowed to get more density than what would normally be allowed.
Okay.
So, what the board needs to decide with input from other departments is which design is preferable for the town. Since it's a special permit, the town does not have to automatically grant the special permit or choose the open space design. If the planning board with input from other departments decides that the conventional design is more preferable or more beneficial to the town or has, less adverse impacts on the town, the town and the board acting on behalf of the town have the ability to guide the applicant to move forward with the conventional design if it so chooses. So I want the board to be aware of that you don't automatically have to grant the open space design because it's a special permit.
Be interesting to see how he's got it laid out.
Yep, so again, I didn't want to bring it before the board yet because it's not for public review. Once they get through the pre-application hearing, obviously they won't be looking at a public hearing until January. But, the board will get a chance to see it and I'll get it out as soon as I can, as soon as it's ready for distribution. In the meantime, if any individual board member wants to come look, you're welcome to look at it, but
Sure.
no deliberation or anything, if you want, just get a sneak peek.
Make sure you show the right one. I think we've seen
Yes,
6 or 7 different
yes.
iterations of
So yes,
his proposals.
yes.
How many versions are there?
No, this is, no, it doesn't matter how many versions, this is the point, this is the
Sure.
one he's submitting for
Okay.
review, yeah.
I see, so he's gone through it all.
Because I think the one we looked at, on the open space design, he was proposing duplex lots, and open space design does not allow duplex lots. So that was one of the shortcomings of that,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
So I'm gonna confer with town council to see how we conduct these public hearings, because if one's a special permit and one's a subdivision, do we hold a public hearing to decide which one the board prefers? Can it be done just as a public meeting? So I have to confer with town council to get guidance on that and as how we on that, because once the board decide, or do I do the public hearing notice listing both? Public hearing for the open space design and a public special permit and public hearing for the conventional subdivision, and then once the board chooses which it prefers, we just move forward with that public hearing for that project. So I'm gonna have to ask town council about that.
Trying to remember what specific process. Seems to me. I don't remember whether we formally approved a preliminary plan for open space and other preliminary conventional plan or not.
Yeah, and I went through this in Rentham, but I don't recall how that process went.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, where the heck did you go, how far back? Was it Deer Run?
Well, we'd probably have to go back to like Noble Hill.
Okay. Wow.
I'm sure he presented a preliminary conventional plan.
Yeah.
And it would seem as though we would have to have approved that plan.
Right, so again, I wanna get clear on the process, because again, they're two different types of votes. A special permit requires a supermajority of the board, a conventional subdivision is a simple majority of the board.
Yeah. But since that preliminary plan is used for a lot count, it seems to me that has to be an approved plan for him to go forward with the open space plan.
Yeah, potentially, yes, yeah. The board would have to vote to accept that, as something to base the open space design off of.
Yeah, well, the question is whether it's an approval or
Yeah, again,
something other than,
yeah, I'm gonna have to check with town council on that to see how we vote on that, how we do that.
I'm sorry, but those notes were burnt. Way back when.
well. I only have them somewhere in the archives up over the.
Scanned, hopefully,
I'll talk to town council.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
That's gonna be, it's gonna
Be a lot
be
better.
quicker, and who knows if things have changed.
Wow.
See, I'm just thinking if, for example, he goes for the open space design, and let's say either we approve the open space, or let's say we deny the open space plan,
Right.
you then should be able to proceed with the conventional.
But the thing is, different application. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking. It's like, you know, right, do we have to have a public hearing for that decision to be made? Or do we make that decision at a public meeting and then he submits an application for either the special permit, which is also gonna have to be a subdivision approval because it still is.
I believe on a preliminary subdivision plan, we do not hold a public hearing.
Okay.
On the definitive, we have to.
But also, he's showing some of the A and R lots, so we're gonna have to approve an A and R plan for those lots within that. Whether it's on the open space design.
So.
yeah, it's a lot of,
Okay, preliminary plan. And we approve that, and then the open space becomes a definitive, it has to be a definitive plan.
That's approved by special permit.
That's approved by special
Gotcha.
permit.
So either way, it's a subdivision plan, just one's approved by special permit and one's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah,
It's also.
but he doesn't have to provide a definitive preliminary, definitive conventional plan.
Right.
Correct.
Well, hold on, if you choose to go conventional, right?
Then he has to come.
He has to, yeah, then he has to prove,
Then
he
would
has
have
to give a
come back.
definitive
Then
conventional
he'd have to
plan,
come back,
yes.
Yes.
Cause then he's going through the subdivision process.
Right.
So-
so essentially he's gotta come back a couple times.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, cause the board has to decide which one, and then he has to file an application for whichever one the board wants him to move
Yeah.
forward with.
and then you do a public hearing.
Oh, yeah, so. Yep. So we'll see.
I keep thinking that the definitive plan and special permit can be done simultaneously.
I think so. I think so.
I think that's in our rate.
Because I think no matter what you do, I think, well, if you choose the open space design, you have to have a reference to the conventional plan anyway.
Yeah.
As a basis,
Mhm.
so.
Yes.
So it really comes down to, is it just a definitive subdivision, or is this a definitive subdivision and special permit? If it's the open space design, then it's both.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, okay,
It's gonna be interesting.
yeah,
And it's gonna be controversial, because from what I understand, that's a parcel of land that came out of chapter 61A.
Correct.
And the abutters were not too happy about that, so.
Correct, and the town refused to purchase it. The
Yeah.
61.
And-
But the thing that's in the back of my mind that I'm thinking of is the amount of wetlands that are involved. And that, right at the moment in this town, I have grave concerns.
So let's hold on to that until we see till you see the designs and we can look at that.
Okay,
It's a different water supply area.
any other discussion, not anticipated?
At this time, I will be at the next meeting.
Any public comment? Anybody out there? Hearing nothing, I'll put the motion.
Move to adjourn.
Yeah, he loves this. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.